This is a More Than Just Podcast production.
Welcome to Podcast Season 6, Episode 3. My name is Timitra. I am in Toronto, Ontario. I'm joined once again by Jonathan Kuline in Mississauga, Ontario.
Hey there, kids.
And we also have Hyman Lippis Jr. in Seattle, Washington.
How's it going?
All righty. So going well. So, a bit of a fact check when we start off here. We were talking about justwatched.com and where I had found about that. I knew it was somebody told me about it. I thought it was one of you guys, but it was a former colleague of mine named Jason Chu, who's another cinephile who told me about it. I went back and found the original reference to that website, and now, of course, it's an app, as I was mentioning last week. And then the other bit of fact check is Rick Sarabia reached out to me.
Sorry, is that Rick Sarabia?
No, it's Rick Sarabia, yes. Thank you. Good catch, boy. It's a good thing you're on the show. Anyway, so he was telling me that he was trying to figure out what show he was on. He was on Enterprise as well. This is the fact check for tonight. He was on Enterprise. Season 2, episode 10, The Vanishing Point. That's the episode where Hoshi is like a ghost and nobody can see her.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Right? Yeah, and so it's one of the two aliens that are messing with the ship. So it's funny because I went into the IMDb and there's a picture of the two aliens messing with the ship, and he's not credited, so I updated his IMDb page. You're welcome, Rick. But he gave me a whole bunch of background stuff. Like that was 20 years ago that he was on Enterprise. It was November. I don't have the date on here. But he was on Enterprise 20 years ago. He was on Babylon 5 as well. He's about to come out in the Mayans MC, which he's playing a recurring character on that, I think. And he says he was doing ADR. I don't know if when he was talking about the subtitles. When they go in to do the voiceover stuff, it's called ADR. I forget what it stands for, but it basically means that's the part where they reread their lines because the mics don't pick them up correctly. For Claire, and he's also on a show called Dave, which is on FX, I think, in the States. He said he currently lives in I think he lives in LA right now. And even more, he's on a show called The Chosen, which is about, I think it's Life of Christ.
Oh, it's based on a comic book. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Yeah, I love the comic. I haven't seen the show. That's an old Mark Miller comic. So
he's in season 2, episode 8, and season 3, episode 4.
Huh, cool.
He plays an elder, a Jewish elder. Yeah, and so he said he wasn't allowed. He had to wear pink contacts in the Star Trek episode. He wasn't allowed to keep the contacts. They were part of the property of Paramount.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to be up for auction at some point for large amounts of money.
Yeah, well, yeah, true. I have a link here as well for the IMDb video of D. Bradley Baker being interviewed about his role or his voices on the Bad Batch, and Jennifer Corbett is the name of the person I couldn't remember last week. She's one of the executive producers and writer, I think, and she's the one who described him as a one-man show, basically, where she's watched him do his reads and he just rattles it off and just switches from one character to the other. He explains in that video, if you're interested, the different characters that he portrays, like I'm drawing a blank, Wrecker and all those kind of guys, and what Wrecker's deal is and why he's the way he is, kind of thing. And I guess that's how he keeps all the sort of different people in his head to voice them. And a little bit of fact check on The Last of Us you guys were talking about last week. I don't know if you guys knew, but I had to do I had to dump the warp core last week, so I had to leave the show. And you guys were talking about The Last of Us after I left, and you were questioning about the whole of the role of the Marauders and stuff like that in the episode, but they're very much a big part in the game, because as well as trying to go through from one part of the country to the other, they run into Ellie and Joel and all the other people run into the infected, but they also run into gangs of marauders who run around with rifles and guns and hammers and throughout the game there's these each sort of section of the game there's like a huge battle with these guys, and of course obviously it's not really entertaining TV, I guess, to have those things, like the shootout where Joel was up in the tower and he was using the sniper rifle to protect Ellie and the two brothers. Yeah, that would have been like a major battle kind of thing, right?
Yep.
But there there were multiple things like that. Like when they got to the hospital after they run into the rhesus monkeys, the university, they have another battle with a bunch of marauders, which of course wasn't in the show as well. There's only, like you said, 4, right? But there was, like, in the game, there's like 30 of them. It's crazy.
Yeah, I guess some things don't translate. It would get a little tedious if you had Joel just endlessly killing people for 15 minutes, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I said, it just becomes like the Walking Dead, which after a while, it's just, I mean, that's why the Walking Dead gets tiring, in my opinion, is because, unless you're into watching the way they, dispatch the infected, it's like, it gets boring after a while, right? And I've got another part of this to talk about, but I'll wait until we get into this week's episode, because it's more about this week's episode. And I did look it up. A troop of rhesus monkeys, or a troop of monkeys, was the answer to the question. What do you call them?
Yeah, not a pack, as I had mistakenly remembered.
Yeah, well, I think it depends on the type of animals in terms of what they call them. But yeah, generally speaking, monkeys are a troop. I don't know what a group of chimpanzees or gorillas would be, right? But for those particular type of monkeys, it would be a troop. Rhesus monkeys are the ones they do research on in science.
Yeah, because they're genetically close to humans.
Are they? Is that why?
Yes. Yeah, that's why there are particular animals that they choose because of their similarities in genetic traits to human beings. That way they'll be able to test more successfully.
Oh, right, yeah. And I think bonobos are closest to us in terms of like the relationships, right?
Yeah, I can't remember what all they were. I do remember being fascinated by that when I was
bonobos,
a young boy.
Yeah, all right. And so we'll head over to the headlines, and Jonathan's up with some relatively sad news for this episode, or for this podcast.
Well, for a show that was founded around the relaunch of Star Trek, this is kind of bittersweet. So kind of a little out of left field, but also not really. So that's surprising. We got news today that Star Trek Discovery is going to be ending with its 5th season next year, 2024. This was put out across all of the Star Trek channels, all the socials, all that kind of stuff today. Again, not a huge surprise. I think sort of had this feeling that, maybe it had sort of played its, self out a little bit. They'd kind of gone from this, we're a prequel. They had this whole adventure. They'd gone into the far-flung future, and the future was all messed up. And now things are starting to sort of stabilize in that far-flung future. I'm sure they could have kept it going, but I think it's probably better to try and end on a high. Hopefully they will. How are you guys feeling having started a podcast 6 years ago around Star Trek Discovery and now coming to the end?
Yeah, it's sort of, well, we talked about Enterprise a few minutes ago, and I was really looking forward to Enterprise when it came out, and I think the first couple of years I was pretty pleased with the stories, and I think I sort of talked about in the past about how it paralleled with the was Desert Storm, was around the time of Desert Storm, and all of a sudden they had to have this war with the Xindi, and I think that was sort of, I mean, I guess maybe because maybe the show wasn't as exciting as people would have expected, because I was sort of more of like the old school Star Trek fan, like from the original series kind of thing, where it's more about science and a bit more episodic than say like Next Generation or Voyager or Deep Space Nine are, right? And because those ones always sort of seemed to run for 7 years. Wasn't the Next Generation was a 7-year contract, and same thing with the other shows, right? But Enterprise, I think after 3 seasons they canceled it, 3 or 4 seasons.
4, yeah.
Was it? Yeah, 4 seasons, yeah. And we were expecting to have a 7-year run. So I guess what I'm saying is I think in a lot of ways I'm prepared for disappointment when it comes to Star Trek. I mean, the original one was only on for 3 years, right? So that's my so I'm surprised, not surprised, but again, I think honestly, the last couple of years of Discovery has been a little, I mean, odd, not kind of, I guess it's all Star Trek, like you said, I said last time, but I think it's wasn't quite as good as, like, let's say, and if we hadn't had Discovery, we wouldn't have got Strange New Worlds either, right? So there was some good that came out of it, even though it was, like the character of Spock and the new Spock, I should say, and Pike and Number One, right? What do you think, Jaime?
Yeah, I think 5 seasons is probably good for Discovery. I don't think, the kind of serialized nature that we have for these stories necessarily needs the syndicated 7 years kind of thing that was kind of a standard for broadcast. And I also think that it's, maybe slightly easier to let something like Discovery go because we're not waiting for the next series. It's not like, oh, well, what's going to happen next year? It's like, hey, we got more right now, right? We're blessed with so many Star Trek series that, I think as we've said before, like if there's a series that somebody doesn't like, well, that's okay. Just skip that one and then get the next one and see if that one's for you. So pour one out for Discovery when it finishes, and kind of did its job to kickstart the whole then CBS All Access streaming channel, which is now Paramount Plus, and as you mentioned, birthed so many other series like Strange New Worlds that came about because of Discovery proving that we, and turning to the metaphorical camera here, we as Star Trek fans all here listening and watching and everything, we've shown that we're pretty loyal, and you put out some good Trek and we'll watch it.
The other side too is that we don't talk about it often on this show, but I think Voyager was part of the UPN network. Like, wasn't the UPN and Voyager kind of started at the same time, and so UPN was kind of trying to take on the NBCs and the ABCs and I guess Comedy Network was out back then too, right? And sort of becoming, and I guess Sci-Fi Channel as well. So many Sci-Fi Channel came afterwards, and it was sort of like, if you look into the sort of lore of Star Trek, the UPN wasn't very successful, right? But that said, I mean, like, again, maybe it was too early for its time, and Paramount Plus and Disney Plus and Apple TV Plus and Prime are kind of like the sort of new, again, building on the world that Netflix created, right? But I think people are more willing to invest in things like that, right? So, I mean, I think it would be the death of Paramount if it was only a Star Trek network kind of thing,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do next. I think that's where my mind immediately went when I saw this news. So we talked about how Paramount's kind of been doing it the right way, in kind of falling into it a little sideways, because they don't certainly get the kind of press we get for Disney TV, Disney Plus, or Apple TV, or Netflix, but they've been quietly keeping Jaime Lopez's money in their pockets month after month after month for the last few years, and that's not an easy feat. And they've been doing it by producing, some pretty good content. Jaime, I mean, you've watched stuff on Paramount Plus that we don't get up here unless we have a Paramount Plus subscription now, like Halo and other things. Mm-hmm. But it was built on this foundation of Star Trek, and starting with Discovery. It'll be interesting because we know they're touting this Picard season, which we're going to talk about later in this episode, as the final season. Now we know we're getting the final season of Discovery. We're down to what? We've got Strange New Worlds as the only live action Star Trek left that we know of, and on top of that we've got the 2 animated series in Prodigy and Lower Decks. I wonder if this is going to be measured at some point by a new announcement, new content coming, or are they going to shift back to doing movies? Are we going to be entering back into a little less Trek? I mean, having 5 series running concurrently, I mean, obviously they're not on at the exact same time, but it's been kind of luxurious as a Trek fan.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, the next one's me, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's kind of timely, in a sense. I saw this one, stumbled across this last week. I saw this hip pouch, or hip, what do you call these things? The purse you wear on your hip, right?
Fanny pack?
Sorry, fanny pack. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. But yeah, I sort of saw it, and I stumbled across it, and I thought, I'm going to check this out. So A24 Auctions, which I think we've talked about before, is doing, or they were doing at the time we looked at this, an auction of the props from Everything Everywhere All at Once. So, for instance, like one of the rocks with the googly eyes on it. I think the the prize would have been the Auditor of the Month trophy. If you haven't seen the movie, you won't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it plays a central role. And and Wayman's fanny pack that sold for the final bid was $48,000 for his fanny pack. The Auditor of the Month got $60,000 US for that one.
Wow.
I know. And then I think the hot dog fingers are here somewhere. So it's funny, Evelyn Bluetooth headset. I actually have one of these Motorola headsets that she was wearing in the show. They only got $6,000 for them though, but I'm pretty sure I saw hot dog finger gloves, $36 or available. So you can buy them, I guess. As part of the merch, right? But yeah, these are the Wang family pictures as well. Even the wheelchair. Cool. Yeah. Oh, and Wayman's chapstick sold for $5,000.
Oh, the one he eats?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting, eh?
That's a fun thing.
Yeah. So that's kind of
what's the one thing you'd want? What's the one thing, if you could have anything from Everything Everywhere, what's the one thing you'd want?
Well, like I said, I think the Auditor of the Month trophy was probably, that's the...
I remember.
Yeah. That was kind of interesting. But I think that's probably, of course you can get the Raccoony as well.
Oh, Rakakuni, yeah.
Rakakuni, yeah. Yeah, I think the funniest thing is probably the Auditor of the Month, or they also have the head scanner thing that she puts on as well, the headset.
Yep.
I mean, as far as googly eyes, I mean, I've got upstairs, Quinn has googly eyes that she plays with all. So we have lots of things in our house covered in googly eyes, right? So
yeah. What about the two rocks?
Oh, the two rocks together, you mean? Like,
yeah,
that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, you put them on a mantelpiece, like those are the rocks.
Well, this is one of the rocks that sold for $13,000, right?
Holy moly!
Yeah. Rock versus rock. I don't know what happened to the other one. Yeah, but I guess you could tell by looking at the rock with the scars on it that it's actually the same rock too. Holy moly is correct. That is the correct response. Yeah, we missed that, folks. Sorry about that. Over to Jaime for the next piece.
Yeah, this one is probably a sign of things to come when it goes with each of these competing streaming services, and how good are your lawyers to write the contracts? So apparently Warner Bros. Discovery, which is the parent company of HBO Max, had paid for the rights to stream South Park content. And it is claimed here in a lawsuit that the South Park creators sort of went around the contract or found a loophole, this alleged here, and created what's effectively new South Park episodes on Paramount Plus. And Paramount Plus will apparently get all of the episodes for streaming of South Park in the nearish future. And I'm not a lawyer. I do not know these contracts. I don't know how they were written. My take from watching the South Park post-COVID, the return of COVID, and the streaming wars part 1 and part 2, as this article here mentions, apparently Paramount Plus and South Park Studios are saying, well, those are quote unquote events or movies or films. And when I watch them as a sort of casual viewer, I'm like, they don't really feel like events. It feels like you sort of duct taped a few episodes together. And they're not really, changing the stakes or radically changing the show in any way, the way that like South Park Bigger, Longer, Uncut did back in the 90s. So
yeah.
Again, not a lawyer, don't know how these are written, don't really have skin in the game other than to say, it's, I think, better when these things are sorted out a little bit, and this is kind of new frontier for people to try to figure out, how do I get as much money as possible, whether you're HBO, Paramount Plus, or the South Park folks.
It's frustrating because there's still a deal here in Canada for South Park to be aired on Much, which is a channel that used to be known as Much Music up here. It's sort of an MTV equivalent. And so the new season that is airing currently on, I assume, Comedy Central in the States. I don't even know. Is it all exclusive to Paramount, or is it on Comedy Central in the States? It's airing here, but in the exact same way, the only way to watch those interstitial movies, quote unquote movies, is to go to Paramount Plus, or you can buy them off of the iTunes store, because I did look, because I was like, I wonder if those are available. But I'm just double checking now, but I believe they were prohibitively expensive. Like, they were like $15 for like an hour. And I thought, that's not a good deal. Like it's not like you're buying a season. It's not like you're buying a feature length movie. You're kind of getting these tweeners, and they were expensive.
So they weren't included with the Paramount subscription.
Yeah, $15 Canadian is the cost. They're included if you have a Paramount Plus subscription, but there's no streaming service showing them in Canada except for Paramount Plus. So if you want to watch them here, you either have to get a subscription to Paramount Plus or you have to buy them off of a streaming service.
They're not on much.
They're not on much.
They're not on much. Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, so I'm just looking, 59 minutes. 59 minutes for the one. This one's an hour 2. There's 4 of them. This one is 48 minutes. 48 minutes. They're calling it a movie.
Wow. And you can't even buy them on Apple TV Plus?
You can buy them on Apple iTunes Store or whatever it's called now. I don't know what do they even call it now. Yeah, still the iTunes Store. You can still buy them on the iTunes Store, but they're $15 a piece. So you get 46 minutes for $15.
I see. Oh, I see what you mean. It's not like you can buy a Paramount Plus subscription to watch them.
You can, because Paramount Plus is available here. So, but those are the only 2 ways you can do it.
Oh,
it's not through terrestrial cable like it has been in the past up here. Everything South Park for the last number of years, for probably a decade, has been available through Much. But now they've got this exclusive content that you can only get if you have Paramount Plus, but you can still watch the regular episodes on Much. So it's kind of all over the place. It's kind of dissuading, I think, a little bit from sort of keeping up with it, because it's like, well, I don't want to get a subscription to another streaming service just to watch these things, but also I'm not paying $15 for 46 minutes of entertainment.
Yeah, that's true. Although we would have paid it for it when it was on DVD back in the day.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, I don't know if you guys watched the SAG Awards, the Screen Actors Guild Awards. Those are the awards awarded by the actors in the union, the SAG Screen Actors Guild Union. And I've got here a couple of things. One is the article here, which lists all the winners, but I also watched the entire thing on YouTube, and I've got a link here to the entire broadcast, 2 hours plus, of the awards show, where Everything Everywhere All at Once kind of stole the show. He was the big winner for the movie category, outstanding motion picture by a cast. They also won for Best Actress in a Leading Role and Best Actor. Well, Best Actor in a Leading Role went to Brendan Fraser, but can never remember how to say his name. Help me out.
Ke Kwan.
Yeah, he won for Best Supporting Actor. Jason Bateman won for Ozark, which was, I don't know, was kind of a he was up against Adam Scott in Severance and Bob Odenkirk in Better Call Saul, Jeff Bridges in The Old Man, and Jonathan Banks also in Better Call Saul. So that was kind of, I don't know if I could call that a good category or a weak category, because these are all, most of the 3 of those characters were playing people that were already in other things. Jennifer Coolidge again won for White Lotus, and but Everything Everywhere. Oh, and Jamie Lee Curtis also won for Outstanding Supporting Female Actor in a Role played by a woman. Which is cool. I really liked her performance in that. Right, so.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and Jeremy Allen White won for The Bear too, for actor in a comedy series. So good performances all around, right?
Yeah, it seems like kind of what the whole sort of award season seems to be trending towards. I really do wonder if this will carry over to the Oscars. The Oscars are always a bit of a little more conservative, perhaps. It'll be interesting to see if they continue this trend. I mean, I don't know about you both, but I want to see Michelle Yeoh holding that trophy, and I want to see Ke Kwan and Jamie Lee Curtis, and I don't know. I've heard a lot of people saying that Cate Blanchett might be a real force for her performance in Tar for the Oscar, because it's just one of those types of roles. But it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and Ke Kwan in his acceptance speech also pointed out that, he was told before that if he had won, he would have been the first Asian to win in that role, in that slot. I'm not sure if that's also true for Michelle as well. Michelle Yeoh. I don't know if that's the same case that an Asian never won that. But yeah, it was it was interesting to see the multicultural aspect of the whole award season this year on SAG Awards. And actually, the in the acceptance speech, what's the name of the guy who plays the grandfather? He's been in 1,000 things. He's like 90 years old or something.
Hong. What's his first name?
Anyway, they let him do the speech, right? So he gave the speech about having like starting out working, like I forget who he said the first show he was in with Clark Gable. He was in a movie with Clark Gable in his first movie.
Wow,
that's how far back he goes. Yeah, and he said that Jamie. He said Lee is a Chinese name, so Jamie Lee Curtis is an honorary Asian. So she was the only.
It's James Hong. I knew the last name was Hong.
James
I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
James Hong. Yes. Yeah, you're right. Like a legend.
Yeah. So he was cool. He was up gave the acceptance speech for that as well.
Cool. Yeah, I saw he got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame recently, which is awesome too.
Really? Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good for him.
Cool. So over to you for some Umbrella Academy news.
Some casting news. Yeah. So we knew that the final season of the Umbrella Academy is coming to Netflix in the not distant future. A little bit of casting news this week. So Nick Offerman and his wife Megan Mullally and the comedian and performer David Cross are all going to be in the final season. It's according to this story, the Offerman and Mullally, who are married in real life, will play doctors Jean and Jean Thibodeau, a married pair of community college professors from New Mexico who wear very sensible footwear and suffer from the most extreme case of deja vu this timeline has ever seen. Cross will play Cy Grossman, an upstanding, shy business owner and family man who will stop at nothing to reconnect with his estranged daughter and get her back. I mean, I like all three of these performers a lot, and I love when Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally are in things together. So this is, I was in for this show already, but this is just it's a little sweetener on top of that.
So, quick question: what station or which channel is Umbrella Academy on?
Well, that would be on Netflix, Tim.
Oh no, you got to be kidding me!
It is on the Netflix.
I think it's on Space too. I might have some of it PVR'd because I hadn't been keeping up with the show, but I think I might have it on my PVR from the Space Channel or whatever they're calling it, Sci-Fi.
Yeah, CTV Sci-Fi. I don't know. I don't know if it's on there.
I think it was, yeah, but I didn't watch very many of them. That's the one with again with the SAG Award winning Canadian actor from Upper Canada College, Brendan Fraser, right? Is that one?
No, it's Doom Patrol.
Oh, that's Doom Patrol. Oh, maybe it's Doom Patrol I have.
Yeah, Doom Patrol was airing here on the CTV Sci-Fi or Showcase or something like that. That's on Crave here as well. That's an HBO Max show.
Yeah, I've been trying to avoid Netflix, but I'm like every time I think about something, I'm like, oh yeah, that's on that show. And I didn't finish watching Dead to Me and a few other shows that are on there, right? So
the bitter irony.
I know, eh? So yeah, it's kind of like, well, I am a stockholder, so I guess I'm already making profit off them anyway. So
well, let's see how they fare when all these people drop their subscriptions, because that seems to be happening.
Yeah, is it really? Yeah, we'll have to see. Cool. Oh, and speaking of what I can't watch on Netflix.
Yeah, a couple of things here. First one is Fubar, which lands on May 25th as a series on Netflix starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. He is a about to retire, I'm too old for this kind of thing CIA guy who gets into, some hijinks, some drama, some action. You've heard any of the words I've said collected together, you probably know what you're getting in for. So buckle up for that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. About time. I mean, he's come back and done a few different roles, although I can't say I loved him in the Terminator Dark Fate movie either, so I don't know. Has he passed his best before date? Do you care? Do you care if you see the name Arnold Schwarzenegger appearing in a movie, or Sylvester Stallone, or, I guess up until recently, Bruce Willis? Like, some of these 80s, 90s action stars, I feel like they're kind of broken the best before date on those ones.
I think Expendables was probably the best vehicle for them, or Red is another one where you had these kind of recycled stars.
Yeah, but the point was that they had gotten past their prime, right?
Well, I mean, other than roles like Conan and the Terminator itself, like I never really could sort of buy Arnold Schwarzenegger as an average American, husband kind of thing, right? Like True Lies, for example, right? It just seemed odd to me that how could he be an undercover, agent kind of thing with such a heavy accent, right? So he's always sort of been, even though he's a bodybuilder and he's like Mr. Universe and all that kind of stuff back in the day, so he got to start. But I never really could see him as a huge action star. But and so I'm tragically not sorry that I'm not going to be able to watch this show. But yeah, I think like the Expendables was sort of the funny, the sort of send off for all those guys, kind of putting them all on one last mission kind of thing. And again, the trope of, an aging agent, who's past his prime, who should have retired, should be off golfing somewhere, gets into a kerfuffle over something. I mean, that's been done and done and done and done and done, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's well-worn territory, but at the same time, people seem to like it. So if people are tuning in for it, I guess it is what it is.
I don't know. People voted for Trump too, so what can I say?
Yep.
You got to watch something on Sunday when you're doing the dishes and laundry, and if it's not this, it's Paw Patrol 2 that I think you gentlemen said was coming out soonish.
Is it? Yeah.
There you go.
Maybe Arnold could do a character in that.
Could just marry the two concepts together. Rounding things out, and the things that Tim can't watch on Netflix is the stop-motion Pokemon series called Pokemon Concierge. No release date for this yet. It's a stop-motion animated series, so that'll be fun and different. So probably something for the kiddos, I would guess. A little bit more all ages friendly.
Cool.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see that. Pokemon has always been video game or animated. It'd be interesting to see something else. I guess Detective Pikachu was kind of something else, but I don't know.
Stuff that Tim, I think, can watch, because I think he is an Apple TV Plus subscriber, is the upcoming soon, very, very soon, March 15th, which is 2 weeks from today, is Ted Lasso Season 3. We've got the, as the title says here, extra feel-good official Season 3 trailer. You'll get hyped for this?
The trailer did not hype me. The trailer didn't necessarily hype me. The fact that it's coming back hyped me.
Yeah, that's true.
I did find myself wondering, because there's been a lot of talk that this might be the last season of this too. I wonder if they're going to follow through with that, or if this is sort of a wait and see. Are we going to get a final season? Is there more after this? I'll be curious to know if this one's wrapping up. Seems like a lot of stuff's wrapping up lately.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's a funny show. It's funny, it's funny because I wasn't really expecting to really like this show when it first came out, but it's a good ensemble cast and it's funny in its own way, sort of kind of quirky, right?
It's sweet.
But I guess
it's just sweet. It's nice. It's like a breath of fresh air.
It's like the little baked goods that he gives everybody on the show, kind of thing.
It's the opposite of Twitter. It's just nice to have in your life.
That's true. And we've got the big dynamic tension between his assistant and who's now the coach of the other team, right? And isn't it owned by her husband, her ex-husband?
Her ex-husband, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's going to be an interesting dynamic as well.
Yeah, that's one of those ones that's nice because we can all sit around and watch that. Like everybody likes it. It's just easy to watch. It's funny, but not like over the top offensive or anything. It's just a good show.
Yeah. Cool.
Got a couple more, and the first one is another little bit of casting news. So I think I mentioned a few episodes back that they're going to reboot the Hellboy comic book movie franchise once again. And for the third time in 4 movies, we're getting yet another actor playing Hellboy. So obviously, they wanted to go a different way. The last movie with David Harbour didn't perform particularly well, so they're going to adapt a pretty good story actually, called The Crooked Man, that was done by Mike Mignola, the creator, and artist Richard Corbin a number of years ago. And they've announced that they are casting an actor named Jack Kesy, 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 in this role. It's funny because it says, and I saw a couple different pieces pop up on social, and then I saw the stories that were up on, a lot of the news, the entertainment news sites. Deadpool 2 actor, and I was like, Deadpool 2 actor? Who was he in Deadpool 2? So I'm looking. He played Black Tom Cassidy, which in the comic books, Black Tom's got a bit of a history. He was, you know, a longtime ally of the Juggernaut, a foe of the X-Men. He's kind of played for a laugh in the Deadpool 2 movie, and he gets like a grand total of about 30 seconds of screen time. So I don't know that this is quite the enticement that they think it is. When I saw what he actually did, I was like, this was not a star of the movie, and he's not a veteran of the, you know, like, this is like a guy who had a bit part, and he may be great, but not based on that. That was just, you know, it was fine. It was completely unmemorable. So
yeah.
Now apparently he's been in other stuff. It said he was on The Strain, which I also have not seen. Did either of you watch The Strain?
I think I watched like an episode or two of it. That was one about a virus, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, he's been around for a while. Big deal for him if he's headlining a movie, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, anyway, this is your new Hellboy. He'll be in heavy prosthetics. You won't even notice who it is anyways. It'll look like a big red, giant-handed hell beast.
I was going to say, but yeah, Ron Perlman owns that role. I mean, like,
oh yeah,
you know, he was also the Beast and back in the early Beauty and the Beast things, right? You know?
Oh yeah, from the 90s, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. And you know where I think he's just amazing is, and I know you agree with me, is In the Name of the Rose. He's so good.
Yeah.
Salvatore. Yeah,
that's one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
Yep. Actually, when I was working in Los Angeles, I actually saw him one day outside of a cafe, and he was talking on his phone, and he's completely recognizable. Easily could tell that it was him. It was just just outside of Hollywood, and I saw him standing there talking on his phone. And I'm a huge fan, and I was like, I'm not going to bother the guy's on his phone, stuff like that. So I walked by, and he sort of walked by, and he knew that I knew who he was, and he sort of gave me the nod, and I gave him the nod back, and I was like, all right, well, that's a satisfying interaction as far as, you know, those things go, you know. I know who you are, you know who I am, cool, and we just kind of went out of our way.
And he respects you for not bugging him too, right? You know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, again, if he was, you know, if he was just standing there, I might have come over and just said, hey, you know, I'm a big fan of your work or something. But, you know, that was a perfectly pleasant interaction. It felt very Canadian. I was like, I know who you are, but I'm not going to bother you because that would be rude.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
The last story I've got for us for the news this week for the headlines is this one made me laugh. Hollywood Reporter had a story today that made me laugh. So James Cameron, in the wake of Avatar 2 and some of the, we'll call them blunt comments regarding the quality of this movie, which for the record, again, is the second highest grossing film of all time now behind Avengers Endgame. He decided that he wanted a little bit of unfiltered opinion. And, you know, sometimes when you're working inside these giant Hollywood systems, you know, you get a lot of yes people and you get a lot of, oh, you're the greatest and everything else. And he decided to go a different route. So he joined his producing partner, John Landau, and they basically had a screening. And they brought in people who had seen the film at least once or multiple times. And then they basically asked them for their completely unvarnished opinion of the film. And these people gave, like, you know, pretty blunt responses. Some things they loved, some things they didn't. And Cameron says, like, this is exactly what I wanted to hear. And I got some really great notes for it. And it's going to make Avatar 3 better. I'm like, kudos, right? Like, but I just can't imagine, like, could you imagine, I mean, you know, Tim, you're an artist. Could you imagine being like, I want you to come in and tell me what you think of the work? Like, that sounds like a nightmare.
That's true. Well, actually, that was the worst part about, for me personally, that was the worst part about art school is you do put your work up in front of your peers and they just tear holes in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, they don't really tear holes in it, but they give you criticism, but it feels like they're tearing holes in it. Yeah. Cool. All right, well, this is the part of the show where we talk about the main event. The main event this week is Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 3, 17 Seconds, which refers to, I mean, you know,
I guess classic my Cure album?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't know that, but my elevator pitch was, you know, if you only got 17 seconds to interface with your kid, take the time and do it. That's my elevator pitch.
Yeah. I think we all kind of went on the same line. Jaime, you might have the same, but mine was, your whole life can change in 17 seconds, right? And we see that twice.
Yeah. So before we jump into Jaime's pitch, are we meant to think that, like, because it was interesting, it's funny, as you know, I've had some tragic things in my life, and I thought it was interesting the way the writers, or, the character of Riker lists off the kids, because when people say to me, how many kids do I have, to me, I always say it's complicated, and because I don't think people are really ready for the actual answer, right? But yet the fact that he says I have a daughter and I had a son is a really elegant way of saying what he's saying without putting it out there for people to really sort of chew on, right?
But he's in that moment when he's talking to Jack, he's kind of hitting him with it, like it is kind of meant to be
it's meant to
jab.
be factual, yeah. But like I said, my "hey, it's complicated" answer kind of skirts around the thing, because some people react badly when I tell them, but this is the way it is. But anyway,
I do the same thing when people ask me about my siblings, so fair enough.
True, yeah. But now we have a new like, almost like having pronouns. It's a new adjective, I guess.
Yeah,
the adjectives, right? Yeah. Sorry, Jaime, did you have a pitch other than 17 seconds?
No, it was pretty basic that the Titan heads deeper into the nebula to hide from the Shrike. Picard and Beverly discuss their past, and Worf and Raffi play good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, bad cop, good Klingon.
Yeah.
And it was interesting too, I know we have to flash back, but we have to have the two, the A plot and the B plot, and all that. Well, there are actually probably more plots than that, but because there's also the Picard versus Riker plot. And then the Picard versus everybody plot, and then there's the Seven plot. And, but I mean, it's kind of odd. It kind of, I don't know, it kind of disrupted the flow a little bit when they go, they have the big, conflict with I forgot her name, not Valerian. What's her name? The
Vadic.
Vadic, yeah, the Vadic conflict with the Shrek and the Titan, not the Enterprise, and they kept, every time the scene would break, so or they would show, we're going to look at the Worf story now. My heart sank a little bit, because they get you're so built up on this how they get out of this unbeatable situation, and then they keep flipping back over to the other two. Although they had to have that plot reveal, which you were asking last week, what is the big. Who's the nemesis behind this whole thing, right? And I think we're coming to a conclusion now, right?
The who is coming clear. It's the how. It's the why that I think we'll get more into.
I have a question about that. We'll get to that later. But yeah.
All right, so let's jump to our pew pew pew. I had the portal weapon.
Yeah, I was going to say, because remember in the last season of Rick and Morty, Rick loses his portal gun.
Yeah. So
clearly now we found it.
It was at Daystrom Institute, apparently.
Apparently, yeah, that's true. I mean, I think it was really cool. The very first time they used it in the show, it's kind of almost like they were throwing up a warp bubble, and I'm thinking, oh, warp bubble. Then I remembered, from the first episode, the way they destroyed that training institute by, dropping it through the portal and then dumping it back onto the planet to another portal. And I really like the way they used the portal here to keep, bringing them back. They kept thinking they were out, but then they got dragged back in again,
Any other pew pew pews beyond the portal?
I went different because there were more literal pew pew pews. I wrote down the ex-lovers quarrel between Picard and Beverly, where there was some haymakers thrown back and forth.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a good scene.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, difficult scene too. But I mean, but it's typical, like we've talked about. The thing about Kirk was the ship was his woman, right? Or metaphorically, and Picard has always been the mission, and I think that's what it's kind of like. Like it's almost like she was saying, you're always out to sea with your ship. You love the sea, kind of thing. Like that's the trope that this Star Trek kind of plays on. With this love of the ship and love of the mission and love of space and love of the fact that, I really like the idea that they put out that because if he was revealed as being Picard's son, he would have had a target painted on him, right? And that may in fact be why they're after Jack and now. Like maybe somebody knows what's going on, right?
Well, and that's what Beverly sort of draws the conclusion on this one. This one feels like this has your fingerprints on it. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Here we go again. And the last scene where the last part of that conversation where he says something to her and she's turned 90 degrees to him, looking away. I can't tell you the number of times I've been in that position where you say something and it doesn't matter what you say, you can't get out of this situation, right? Because your partner is just like, they're like, here we go again. I could just see it in her face, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jaime, you're right. That was a killer scene, and that's, two good actors really kind of putting it all out there too. Was there anything in there that really, like, I mean, we'll get into it, some of the quotes, but yeah, some of that conversation was pretty devastating, especially when, like, we love both these characters, right? Like, these are two beloved Star Trek icons, and to see them just, like, they were kind of going for blood on, like, they, he was kind of really going after her, saying, how dare you? And she was coming back with, well, how dare you? Like, you don't even realize how you're perceived. That was really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I feel like I could kind of see both sides, right? Where from Picard's side, he's like, I missed out on this opportunity to learn something about myself, about what kind of father he would be. And for her, it was I can lose more people, or I could see if I could save this one, right? She lost her parents, which I did not recall. She lost her husband. She says she lost her son Wesley because he's like off doing other things, so it's no different than being permanently.
I thought that was another implication. I thought that was a bombshell.
I don't think she meant literal death.
He left with the Traveler, right? Wasn't that the last we saw of him? Is he was becoming a Traveler?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So he's right. Like ascended to something else where it's like, metaphorically no different than being dead, right? It's he's
just gone, right?
Yeah.
True.
All right, I think I pulled a really good Easter egg. So my Easter egg is in the scene where Raffi wakes up and Worf is listening to opera and doing his Tai Chi. The song that is playing is Berlioz. It's from one of his operas, and it's called Valence Sonore. And it is the exact same song that plays at the beginning of Star Trek First Contact when Picard is in his cabin and he's been ordered not to engage the Borg. He's been ordered to stay away from the battle for Earth. And he's trying to make the decision whether or not he should break the rules and go and join the battle.
All right. Cool. Good Easter egg, that one for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a deliberate choice. I don't know if there's further deeper implications. I mean, does this mean that Worf is going to make a choice about violating orders like Picard did? I don't know. But when I heard it, I'm like, huh. And I did a Shazam. There's a shout out for Shazam. And was like, oh, okay. And then I did a little search and I was like, oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, we should totally be updating the IMDb database.
Yeah. So let's do our do you want to do our quotes or our big question?
Well, the big question is interesting too, because I have a big question about the big question. So why don't you tell us what your big question is and I'll ask my questions.
Okay, so my big question was, if throughout this episode we uncover the fact that the agents that are working against, like the one of the big bads here, and I'm saying one because I don't think they're the only big bads here, are established to be the changelings from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. This is Odo's people, right? And so my question was, why would the Dominion, the changelings, want to steal lore? If we're putting two and two together based on our conversation last week that we think lore is what they stole from Daystrom, because that's the last place we saw all those body parts, right?
So is he disassembled as we started?
B4 is there, but we don't know if lore is there. But it makes sense that lore would be there because he was taken apart by Data years ago.
Oh, was he? Okay, that's what I mean. Like he was disassembled. Okay. Interesting. So, I get the part I'm a little bit messed up on, and this is from Deep Space Nine, and probably from not watching it regularly or since the end of it. But so the Dominion War, which is what was one of the major plot points in the whole of Deep Space Nine, that was the changelings were behind that. They were, because who were those guys, the aliens that were doing all the battling? What were they called?
The Jem'Hadar. The Jem'Hadar were basically drug-fueled slaves of the changelings. Oh,
so they were doing the fighting because it's hard to fight from a bucket, right?
Well, and again, they sort of, for the most part, they were more about the espionage part of it, going in disguise. You'll recall that whole great two-part story arc where they basically sub in for Bashir and try and mess things up. And yeah, they were kind of more that, whereas the Jem'Hadar were supposed to be these just like mighty warriors, and they basically enslaved them by making them drug addicts, right?
Right.
Jaime, I know you're big on the DS9. I gotta know what you're thinking about all this.
Yeah, I had Odo and the Changelings as sort of an intertwined Easter egg hunt. Easter egg is kind of less for the Changelings because they're named, and the Dominion are named, and the faction that has broken off from the main part of the Great Link. I don't believe Odo is name dropped exactly, but Worf does say that something like a great man from there told him about this and how.
Yeah, I think he says a man of honor.
Man of honor. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I took that to mean Odo too. It's nice. It's a nice little shout out for Rene Auberjonois, who's of course passed away a few years ago. So a nice little way to get a little tie-in. Obviously, he and Michael Dorn would have acted together for a number of years. So nice way to give him a little shout out. But the part that I also can't rationalize beyond obviously the whole like if they broke into Daystrom to steal lore or B4 or whatever, I don't also understand. If this is the Dominion doing this, what is their beef with Picard in particular?
Right.
Like, I don't remember Picard having a particularly big role. And I'm worried that they're going to build towards some sort of off-camera event that we don't know about where Picard did a thing. And, I was really hoping this would sort of tie into the larger narrative of sort of pre-Paramount Plus Star Trek shows where we, Little Wrath of Connie, bring something back, tie it all together. And I guess they're kind of doing the greatest hits. We talked about, obviously, they did the Borg in season 1. They did Q in season 2. But the Changelings? I don't know. There's got to be something else.
Only because there was a lot of crossover episodes on Deep Space Nine, like where the Enterprise would show up, right? Because weren't they there? They were there in the first premiere episode. And
yeah, that's where Sisko just basically tells Picard to get stuffed for killing his wife, right?
Yeah, and then I think they deliver Worf to them or something like that, or Worf was on the Enterprise, but left the Enterprise to go work on Deep Space Nine, and
yeah, they kind of go back and forth because he goes back and forth between the movies and the show, right?
Yeah, right. Yes, and that was always sort of an odd thing, but It is a good question, like where are they going with this and why lore? Like, okay, so if they've already stolen lore, why are they after Picard or why are they after Picard's son? Right? I think they're after the son to get the father,
if it's not the crystalline entity, I don't even know what I'm going to say. I mean, really, I think he's got to be the big bad behind all this.
Or Q. Well, I mean, because in the same sense that, I think they had an episode of what was it in Lower Decks where you guys go around, you make all these sweeping changes and then you leave, right? Mm-hmm. So it's gonna be I have a feeling it's gonna be something like that, like something that Picard did without really impregnating Beverly Crusher, for example, without realizing that he's done it, because I think he would kind of remember like the last time I saw her, we kind of got it on. I don't, anyway, but
apparently raw dogging it too. So good job, Picard.
Exactly. Well, exactly. That's the other. Like again, 21st century. Haven't we figured this stuff out yet? Like I said last week.
It's good to know that birth control is still like a woman's responsibility in the 24th century too. Isn't that great?
100%.
He's just like, I came. It's I'm out of here.
Yeah. Wow. He must have had that. What was that little doll that he got on that one planet?
Oh, the Horgon?
The Horgon. He must have had the Horgon with him or something. He was under the influence of the Horgon, yeah.
Jaime, do you have a big question?
I kind of doubt how big of a question this is, but I am wondering if this is the first canonical time we've seen folks look out the window when sensors are down.
100%.
It does seem like a sensible thing to do of like, sensors are down, we're blind. I'm like, you got windows, get everybody looking out there and hope that you see something.
I want to know what happened to the other guy that was looking out the window. Where'd he go? Like, is he off shift or something? Oh, and why, if LaForge is told to go and rest, in the next scene, she's at the con again?
Yeah, I mean, they basically say, get the rest while you can. I guess they probably don't get a lot of sleep. Again, you'd think that'd be something they might sort out by the 24th century. Like, hey, can you go and lie down for 20 minutes and make it feel like 5 hours?
Yeah, or they take a pill, or you just, whatever. I mean, and don't they, like, didn't we establish on the lower decks that there are different crews?
Yeah, different shifts, right? Like, that's the whole point.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
But, you got to have her there. It's important.
It's true. She's important, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, Data I could see, because he doesn't have to rest, really,
Yeah, why he got any time off, I don't know. I'd be like, yeah, you just go sit back down.
Yeah, exactly. Just keep that log running. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about, so we got a little bit of tension. We start the episode with the de-aged Picard and the de-aged Riker toasting the birth of Thaddeus, Riker's now unfortunately canonically dead child. And they're all buddy, and then over the course of the episode we kind of see this fraying where their two styles are kind of clashing with one another, and the power positions have changed, right? It was always the captain, Captain Picard and Commander Riker. Now it's Captain Riker and you. What's the line? You I guess you better start calling me number one.
Yeah, you should call me number one now.
Yeah. So it was interesting to see that dynamic shift, and it's an interesting one too. Obviously this is something that people go through with friends who are older, or obviously family members who are older, where like the power dynamic kind of shifts a little bit, and you respect these people immensely, but also there's times where you are also an adult and you're also experienced, and you feel like you know what's right too, and we see that really come to a head in this episode between Riker and Picard. It's interesting because obviously those two, for the first few episodes, were very much on the same page, although Riker's clearly pushing Picard towards this sort of fatherhood story. But yeah, interesting to see those two kind of their styles clashing so extremely that we get this very, very damning final line for the episode, which is remove yourself from the bridge, you've just killed us all. Like, that's
exactly
yikes.
Yeah.
Okay, for the quotes, I had a bunch. My favorite is probably beheadings are on Wednesdays. I might get that on a t-shirt. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good one. I really liked the line, and I'll skip the expletive, but the line from Shaw where they're inside the nebula, and the science officer, the Vulcan science officer, says, I'm getting weird readings. It's almost as if the nebula is alive, and he says, anyone else want to throw some weird blank at me? I thought that was I really enjoy his performance. Again, he's a curmudgeonly schmuck, but he's funny. His deadpan deliveries are great. And then I mean, what Jaime mentioned, the some of the stuff between the two of them in the conversation between Picard and Crusher are how dare you take my confiding about my father, about my fears, and use it to cut me out of the biggest decision of my life. Her line, all I knew is that if you're the son of Jean-Luc Picard, there's a target on your back. That was a good one.
Right, yeah.
And I think her coup de grace was, as a mother, your whole being is about protecting your child. I thought I could protect mine. I didn't know if I can protect yours. That was a killer line, and she killed that. She was so good. Couple of funnier ones. Yeah, Will, I think it might be time for you to call me number one when they find themselves in that role reversal. I have, as humans say, been working on myself, from Worf. That was a great one. Yeah. Anything else jump out for you guys?
I think you pretty nailed it. Like the number one, I think for sure. But the beheadings are on Wednesdays. So just the sort of the deadpan dropping, because she sort of, what did she say to him? Like, you look like what do you wear when you're up for beheadings? Because he says he's dressed in casual, and he's almost embarrassed about it, right?
Yeah, she's like, you kind of stand out in your, Klingon, warrior garb. He's like, this isn't warrior garb. This is casual wear.
Yeah, exactly.
I liked, I didn't write the whole thing down, but when he introduces himself properly to Raffi when she wakes up, where he's, I am Worf, son of Mog, and he basically runs through all the Klingon credentials,
And then his Earth credentials as well, yeah.
And then his Earth credentials and, Slayer of Gowron, and goes through all of his credentials and then says, and I have made a pot of chamomile. Would you like some? Dor was killing it in this episode. He was great.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That was funny. Oh, she says, I think my chamomile's coming up at one point.
Yeah, that's right. So we saw Marina Sirtis as Deanna Troi for like a fleeting little moment there in the bar at the beginning, where she's got baby Thaddeus, and she's saying to Riker, put down the whiskey and come home. Right. We still haven't seen Geordi, but we got a really long Geordi conversation between his daughter and Seven in this one. So another reference to him. Obviously, he's coming.
So wait, wouldn't she be? She refers to her as Commander 7. Wouldn't she be Commander 9?
I guess it depends on how you interpret her name. I think she's now, because she doesn't go by 7 of 9 anymore. She's just 7, right?
Oh, 7. Okay, right.
But the thing is that the captain insists on calling her Hansen, which she hates.
Yes, yeah, Annika.
And so that's, I guess, her way of showing respect is by calling her Commander 7, right?
Right.
But yeah, I think I'd be curious to see how they roll in Geordi to this, whether we get more Troy. I assume we're going to get some proper scenes with Troy. And then obviously the Brent Spiner, we know we're going to get some Brent Spiner at some point, whether it's lore or B4 or both, or who knows, maybe it's another positronic being. But I'll be curious to see how this all sort of comes back.
Yeah, there was one other quote too when Jack comes to get her to go investigate, what's going on, because he's not allowed on the bridge because the other guy says, go away. Right. He's standing inside her room and she's confined to quarters. And of course, there's a security guard outside who won't let her leave her quarters. And he sort of does his head bob thing. And then he just sucker punches the guy, in the glass jaw, and knocks him flat on his back. And she looks at him and says, you're insane. And then they leave, right? Because that could have worked out really badly if you didn't get the punch right.
Well, I don't think that was the first time that Jack Crusher's supposed to have thrown a punch. Can we also circle back to one quick thing? And I think Jaime, you mentioned this last week.
Mm-hmm.
How weirdly disturbing is it now that we've got last week they kind of wrapped the episode with the revelation that Jack is Jean-Luc's son. Somewhere in that conversation, shouldn't Jean-Luc have just looked at her and said, and naming him after your dead your dead husband instead of me or someone in my family? What's up with that?
Yeah, it's a weird one. The last thing that I have written here related to Jack is these serialized things and the way they set them up almost qualifies a new category that we could cover called mea culpa, where I made the funnies about his accent is genetic, or hand wave maybe it's because she kept him isolated and all he had for bedtime stories were Jean-Luc Picard captain's logs or something.
I was thinking that when she was telling the story.
Yeah, it's kind of the news story I saw of there's all these American kids getting slight British accents because of the popularity of Peppa Pig. I'm like, all right, plausible. But they actually answered. I am shocked. My mouth dropped when they answered, and it turns out that Jack went to a school in London. They threw in a sentence in the third episode that says, hey, this is why this dude kind of sounds like his father from an accent perspective.
Yeah, you just know that was heading off the trolls at the pass, right?
Yeah.
Nitpickers like us don't get to pick those nits anymore. Want to move on to The Mandalorian? We got our first Mandalorian episode in quite a long time.
I gotta say, I'm pretty disappointed in the folks over at Apple TV Plus, because I've been going on for the last 3 years about how amazing the interface is on the Apple TV Plus, because when the shows that I have in my category of up next come out, on the main menu, it always shows me what the next show in the up next thing is. I missed that The Mandalorian came out yesterday because I just was busy, and it didn't show up in my. So I ended up watching the new Eugene Levy show, The Reluctant Traveler, instead of watching The Mandalorian last night, which I would have done had I realized it was Wednesday and that it was coming out. So whoever's running the algorithms over Apple, come on, get with the game.
Yeah, Apple. You got other things to spend your time on. All right, so this is season 3, episode 1, which is also known as chapter 17. So we're continuing the chapter naming structure. Chapter 17, the Apostate. An apostate, for those who do not know, is somebody who has either renounced or been renounced by a religion. So that would make Din Djarin our apostate in this case. I was very proud of my two. I was so proud of myself that I wrote 2 elevator pitches, and I'm very proud of both of them. May I read them for you?
Yes, you may.
All right. So the first one is, Mando and Grogu are getting the band back together, and they're on a mission from God.
Right. Yeah.
And my backup one, which I might even be more proud of, is much Grogu about nothing.
Huh? Mm.
That's my official review of a 32-minute opening episode after like a 2-year wait. Much Grogu about nothing.
That was a good one.
All right, you guys go.
Yeah, for me, I went with that's Mando in the corner. That's Mando in the spotlight, losing his religion.
Oh, I thought I had it, Jaime, but you had it. You had it the whole time. Oh, damn you, Lopez. Oh, so good.
Yeah. I would have an elevator pitch if I hadn't rushed through the show before this episode. Thanks, Apple.
Well, it was, I just, I'm going to start at the beginning. I can't believe it was only 32 minutes long.
That what it was?
Of course,
okay.
32 minutes. I sat down, and so I'm like, okay, it's Wednesday. I'm going to watch it. Okay. And, sat down with my son, and we're going to watch this thing. And we sat down, we made ourselves comfortable. We sat down, we're like, woof, Mandalorian's back. And we were like, wait, what? It's over? What happened there? I can't believe it's over already. Now, I know what that means. It means that, just like a lot of other Disney Plus series, it means that they wanted to go bigger on other episodes, and they're really kind of going by an aggregate time amount for the season, not per episode. So we might get another, hour-long, spectacular, grand, epic thing later on in the season, and maybe that's the sacrifice. But I don't know. This felt like, much ado about nothing. It was just, it was a nice little check-in. We got to kind of check in on Navarro. We kind of got to check in on, what happened with some of the other characters. Check in with we check in with the Mandalorians. We check in with Grief Karga. We check in with, Din and Grogu, obviously. We check in with, what happened with Cara Dune. We check in what happened with Moff Gideon. And then they basically go to point B. We check in with Bo-Katan. And it's just and the episode's over. It was just a well-shot recap.
Yeah, and so my, and the cold open, right? Because, I'm thinking the cold open's kind of like, oh, is this Mando going through the ceremony? But, the helmet color's slightly different. And then all of, I don't know if you remember my discussion about Red Dead Redemption a couple of weeks ago, when the big giant alligator thing from the sea comes up and starts attacking you, run away.
Yeah.
What? How many of them died just trying to fight off this thing? And they were losing that battle. And then, of course, the thing is, it's funny though, when Mando's ship showed up, because it's like it's almost what were they? The Phantom Menace speeders from Naboo, right? Those ships, because he's got one.
Yeah, Naboo Starfighter. Yeah.
Yeah, Naboo Starfighter, and that's when it shows up. I'm like, oh, look, a Naboo Starfighter. And then but it took me a second to realize, oh, wait a minute. And then I went, is that Mando? Okay, now I'm confused, right? But yeah, I
and I think they were trying to do that deliberately. I think they were kind of trying to throw you for, well, maybe this is Din Djarin becoming his
flashback.
thing. I had the same thought. I'm like, oh, this must be a flashback because there's so many Mandalorians, and it looked like it could be, But then, they sort of throw you that. No, we're in the present. This is just some other kid getting his helmet for the first time.
Yeah, but there seems to be a lot of them. Like, I thought they were all almost like the Jedi, far flung kind of thing. Because there was, there had to be like 50 or 75 of them on that beach, right? So, plus other kids going through the ceremony. Yeah. But run the hell away. Like, that thing was huge.
Can we talk about the strategy of deploying like a grappling hook to a monster that is like rolling around and thrashing?
Like an alligator, because how alligators fight is crocodiles fight and alligators fight is they grab a hold of something and then they spin like that in the water to drown the opponent, like if it's a wildebeest or whatever, right?
Good thing they're not wearing heavy armor.
That's true. Well, yeah. Crazy.
And yet, this was not necessarily our best pew 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 of the episode.
No, definitely, yeah.
I mean, did you have this as your pew pew pew, or did you have the other scene?
I had this one on the pew pew pews, like per minute sort of thing. The other one, the dogfight, was very exciting in kind of a folks are definitely going to blow up sort of way. Right?
Yeah.
So fewer pews.
I mean, that one was a sort of It was a foregone conclusion how that was going to end, but I kind of liked watching, just somebody in a really cool, fast ship do cool, fast ship stuff.
Yeah, yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I like the pirate one. So you were talking about the pirate attack, or when he's being chased. Oh, my pew pew was actually the standoff on the planet at the beginning with the other pirates, right?
Oh, so you had the one on Navarro where they're trying to get drunk at the school?
Yeah, they want to go back. They want to go to school, exactly, and they do the gunslinger thing, the draw kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
and the two of them are ready to draw, and then the mayor or whatever he was, he shoots the gun out of the other guy's hand rather than killing him. It just shoots his hand, right? So he drops his weapon, and which is sort of the elegant senior gunslinger kind of way you want them to do it, as opposed to just killing them per se, right? And then but then when all the other pirates reach for their weapons, Mando and our what's his name, the character,
Grief Karga.
Yeah, they both just bang, 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 and the four out of the 5 pirates are lying on the ground, and and then it's like, go tell your friends not to come here, kind of thing.
Yes, go tell Pirate King Captain Gorian Shard, which might be the biggest, coolest title I've heard a while in Star Wars. Jeez.
Yeah.
And he's quite the character. We get to see him later on. I don't think we've ever seen a species quite like that. A little CGI for my taste, but
wasn't he a chia pet?
They were going for something.
I thought he was a chia pet.
Yeah, he looked like my backyard hedge come to life.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know what kind of character, Silas, what's his name? Silas Green from Jabba the Hutt's palace. His little pet.
Salacious Crumble. That's I got that as my Easter egg.
Oh, with the tree full of them. Okay, sorry.
Yes, yeah. So that was my Easter egg. Was they're called Kowakian monkey lizards.
Okay.
Salacious Crumb is the one from Jabba's palace, but so that was like a beautiful way to juxtapose what Navarro was at the beginning of the series versus what Navarro is now, right? So at the first episode of The Mandalorian, we see them walking through the streets of Navarro, and on Navarro we see the Kowakian monkey lizards are in cages, and one of them is being barbecued over his spit.
Yeah.
And so we know that it's not happy times for the Kowakian monkey lizards. And then here we see like 5 of them like hanging out in a tree, and they all look like really happy. And Navarro's this like beautiful, pristine, trading outpost now. It was a beautiful, simple way to illustrate like how much things have changed on Navarro. I thought that was great.
Yeah, in like what, a year or 2 years, I guess.
Yeah, they're not really super clear on the timelines in this show. I saw a story the other day from IGN where they said they were talking with Jon Favreau, and he said that Grogu was with Luke for almost 2 years.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, wait, what? That's what? So yeah, I'm kind of surprised by that. I didn't really see that was the time range. I wouldn't have thought that that's what it was. I kind of wish every once in a while they would sort of time check so that we could figure out like how much time is or has passed. But yeah, I was really surprised by that comment when I saw it. That was just maybe 2 days ago on IGN.
Interesting. Yeah. So wait, so was this character from? I'm getting confused between Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian. Because Book of Boba Fett, he runs across the Jabbas, right? The Hutts.
Yes.
Right.
So I guess somewhere between when the end of season 2, where Luke and Grogu leave together, to when Grogu shows back up on Tatooine during the big climactic fight scene in Book of Boba Fett. That's supposed to have been 2 years passing where the two of them were apart. Which I guess is good because it kind of contextualizes how Grogu now has a little more Force acuity.
Right.
We see him use the Force multiple times in the first episode of the season. But also, I don't think they did a very good job of conveying that.
Right. Yeah. I thought he was going to. There was a conflict at one point where I thought he was going to use the Force, but he didn't.
I mean, we see him use the Force, and that is my big question. How much fun would it be to be able to sit in your chair and use the Force to spin yourself in circles? That scene, I couldn't stop laughing.
Smarties. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I couldn't stop laughing. I was watching with my son, and I had to go back and watch the dialogue again because I was laughing so hard at just watching Grogu spin himself in circles with like a little hand gesture. That just killed me. And then, when he looks up and he realizes there's a candy dish on there, is like, oh, I'll have one of those, and just sucks the candy into his hand with the Force. Like, now that is what I would imagine a young person doing with the Force, not like, oh, let's all live in a temple together and practice with our lightsabers. He's like, no, man, I want some candy, and I'm going to spin this chair around for 20 minutes.
Yeah, totally.
Didn't pull a lot of good quotes out of this one. The one that did, again, it was a laugh line, but it was a funny one. So we get to see the Anzelians, who, of course, Babu Frick from that atrocious cinematic horror film, whose name I forget. But the Anzelians are trying to repair IG-11, and Grogu is just enchanted by the Anzelians being smaller than him. So I think, obviously, in a very meta moment where everybody wants to go squeeze Grogu because he's so cute, he just can't help himself and tries to squeeze the Anzelian. We get the quote, "Not squeeze, bad baby." But yeah, like 32 minutes. That's the part that is still just absolutely like, we got catch up with where the Mandalorians are. We got a restatement of the mission. He has to go to Mandalore. He has to bathe in the waters of the mines in order to cleanse himself so that he can be reclaimed as a Mandalorian. We reconnected to the fact that he's part of this kind of shady religious sect, and that Bo-Katan is not, and he still has the Darksaber, which means he's theoretically the rightful leader of the Mandalorians, but not necessarily the Children of the Watch. There's a lot of Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Star Wars Rebels Mandalorian lore going through these episodes. If you haven't watched those, and I did mention this to my son, it's time to watch those because there's a lot of stuff going on here. And the only other check-in we get that's probably worthwhile is IG-11. So we know IG-11 got turned into a statue, in part, and then they tried to revive him. That did not go well. And he turned out to be this, revert to his original programming. So now that's sort of the side mission, is trying to figure out how to revive IG-11.
But we get he remembered the bounty that he had for Grogu.
Well, I guess that was his original programming, was I'm a bounty hunter. I have to terminate the child, right?
Okay.
Because that was the last thing he was doing before he was shot in the head by Din on the first mission, right?
But wasn't he a bounty hunter in Return of the Jedi, or
no? That's IG-88. That's a different model. That's a different robot. Yeah, or droid.
Okay.
But we do get a little check-in that it was kind of a curiosity, and it's in the same way that we talked about that little drop-in line about Jack, going to school in London. What happened to Cara Dune? Cara Dune, who got written off the show for being controversial. Let's just put it politely. Mm-hmm. She was recruited to Special Forces for the New Republic and will never be heard from again. And Moff Gideon is being tried for war crimes, so we get that little update too. So that sort of puts a nice little bow on those two characters. Maybe we'll see Moff Gideon again, although it's hard to say. But yeah, that was. I mean, they did cram a lot into the 32 minutes. We do obviously it does set a stage for a new season, but it just. So
my one odd question was, I mean, not one question, but my one question, the question I'm left with is, so we saw a bunch of C3 models, right? You know, we had like C3PO type models. We had one that was like black and one that was like super gold. We had one that was kind of white, creamy colored, and then we had the super gold one was with our mayor guy, or chieftain guy, whatever his name is. But
he's High Magistrate Grief Karga.
Oh, the magistrate, yeah. So it was with him. But why did it have to have a different face? If all the other C3Ps had the same face.
Yeah, we've normally seen that color of faceplate on like black colored protocol droids of some sort.
No, the shape of the gold one had a sort of, like, he didn't have a C3PO. Is it because he was gold and it would confuse the kiddos if there was another C3? Because there were 3 other C3PO type droids. I don't know what they're called. The protocol
droids.
I know, but I don't know what they're all CP something, right? But there, like, because there was a black one, there was a white one, and then like they were painted flat white, like that new color that we see on all the cars. It's really expensive, but and then you have this shiny gold one, which is looks like C3PO at the end of Star Wars or A New Hope when he's all shined up, right? But the faceplate of this particular, it just looked, to me, it looked wrong. It looked like, I mean, I get why they wanted to change it, maybe because they're going to confuse people to think that it's C3PO again. But yeah, I don't know, it just looked odd. Oh, that's using your head. That was one of the quotes.
Yeah. The one scene I didn't mention, and I don't know what you guys made of it. So there's a scene where they are in hyperspace. They're traveling through hyperspace.
Yeah, they see a whale. Yeah.
They see the space whales, right?
From
and the space whales are
yeah.
Well, no, they're the same space whales that we see in. We see them in Rebels, right? They're the ones that live in hyperspace. Yes. They're the same. The whole thing with Ezra and the space whales. That I wonder if that's going to circle back around. The other question, I guess, I had for the big question, and it's probably worth asking: are all these shows? And it's the same question I have for Bad Batch. So maybe I'll save it for Bad Batch. But all these shows seem to be pointing in the same direction. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Bad Batch, and I'll bring that one back around.
Okay. All right.
So, Star Wars, The Bad Batch, Season 2, Episode 11, Metamorphosis.
Mm-hmm.
Elevator pitch: Clone Wars 2, Revenge of the Zillo Beast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we had the Zillo Beast in Clone Wars 2. Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't know what it was when they've seen, and theoretically, we've seen the Zillo Beasts before, right?
Yeah, and this would have been a few years before anyways, but you'd think it would make headlines across the galaxy if this gigantic Zillo Beast was like ravaging Coruscant as it did.
Yeah. Oh yes, that's true, yes.
Anybody else have a different elevator pitch?
I hadn't seen the creature before because I haven't seen that part of Clone Wars, so I just put that the Batch encounters a xenomorph because that's what the vibe it gave me.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty much they play the first half of it like an Aliens movie, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Not seeing it, for sure.
Yeah. When I first saw it pop up, when I first got a look at the beast, I thought, "Oh, that's funny. It looks like a cross between a Zillo Beast and a xenomorph from the Aliens movies."
Yeah.
And turns out it was all correct. Yeah, it was kind of all of the above. Because they never really showed a Zillo Beast looking like that. We only ever saw them as like a fully grown creature in the Clone Wars series. But it was a nice little Easter egg too, because during the Clone Wars, that was kind of an unresolved storyline that the Zillo Beast was caught off planet. It was taken to Coruscant. It escaped. They caught this thing. In the end, they take it down. But the whole point in bringing it there was that Palpatine wanted to study this thing because he wanted to try and learn about how it had its abilities. So this one kind of brings it back, but then tying that into the whole like cloning technology stuff was kind of an interesting twist on it too. That seems like they were trying to do some experimentation with this creature as well. So yeah, it's kind of a nice way to sort of bring back this creature from Clone Wars and tie it into this larger overall arc. But I think that brings me back to the question that I wanted to ask both of you. Are all the current Star Wars projects just focused on redeeming that really crappy Episode 9? Is that what this is all about now? Because it sure feels like it. It really feels like so Bad Batch is clearly pointing to this whole underlining story about cloning. The Clone Force 99 is obviously our heroes, the Bad Batch. We've got Omega. We now got this whole thing going on with Dr. Hemlock, who is, of course, trying to, clearly trying to clone, what seems to be like clone for the Emperor. He actually makes a quote, other than the quotes. He says, what happened on the Camino was unfortunate, but know that your research remains intact. He's talking to Lama Su. It'll now serve a higher purpose, the Emperor's purpose. Okay, well, that can't be any clearer.
Right, yeah.
That what we're talking about here is the larger cloning project that is supposed to prolong Palpatine's life, which is what culminates in Episode 9.
And that's what he's talking to me. Too. He's talking to, is it Revenge of the Sith? No. What's the third of the first? The third of the first.
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, he's talking to him about living forever, right?
Sorry, I said Lama Su. He's talking to Nala Se.
No, I know, but I'm talking about Palpatine talking to Anakin about this mythical living forever guy, right?
Yes.
Which is what this.
Well, Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Yeah. And this is where Episode 6. This is. I don't know if that's the rationale for how they were able to put him in a cart and bring him back out again, and animatronically. Well, I mean, if they could animatronically reproduce, and preserve Picard, they certainly could do it with Emperor Palpatine too, right? Although the technology wasn't quite as good, their robot technology.
So Bad Batch is pointing towards this cloning storyline that is tied into, obviously, the Emperor's attempts to clone himself. Now we circle back to The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian, we got this whole story where they keep trying to kidnap Grogu. That's what the mission was from Moff Gideon, right? Find me this thing. It has the highest, quote, M count. Okay, so that's midichlorians. God, yeah. I can't believe they brought back the midichlorians. And the idea is that they want to kidnap this kid because they want to use his blood to use as part of this cloning technology.
Cure the infected, right?
Well, no, the idea is they want to use something as cloning material that has a high M count, therefore it would be very force sensitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
trying to tie it into Last of Us. Come on, work with me.
Yes, I got it. I'm enjoying these shows for what they are. And I love the creators of these shows. I'm worried about this direction. Am I alone? Should I be not worried?
Now that you pointed it out, it is a very sad state of affairs if that's the case, right? Definitely.
Like, is this like all we're doing now is trying to make all these prequel shows just so that somewhere 10 years from now, when they're all done, you could watch all the Star Wars stories and all of a sudden Episode 9 won't seem so far-fetched?
Maybe.
Please stop trying to rescue. I'm going to say it here. Creators, all of you, please stop trying to rescue Episode 9. Let's just move on. Let's tell good stories. Let's just tell good stories.
Yeah.
It doesn't all have to come back to Palpatine and the Skywalkers and all this stuff. Just tell good stories.
Yeah, I thought we were done with the Skywalker saga, right? As they call it in the box set, right? All 9 episodes.
Yeah, I think we're fooling ourselves.
Well, but I'm like, again, I'll die on that field that says, Star Wars, no New Hope subtitle, is a good standalone movie, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are so spoiled by having sequels that are just amazing, because like back in the day, sequels was the death of a storyline. Like, there's so many, like Jaws 2,
Mm-hmm.
Jaws 3, Sharknado 2, Sharknado 4, Wrath of God. No, not Wrath of God, but
no, that was a good one. We'll save that one.
Search for Spock, like back then, like, they would have a really good movie, and like, thank God they didn't try to do Taxi Driver 2, You know, where Jodie
They did
Foster
do
becomes a
a
taxi
second.
driver.
They did do a second Godfather. That worked out okay.
Well, but it wasn't. You know, the Godfather, the first Godfather was really good. You know,
I love it. The second Godfather is great.
Yeah,
it's really great.
no,
It's a great movie.
Yeah, especially with the two lifelines. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
but I mean. Yeah, again, they got lucky. They got lucky on a few of them, like, you know, but like, you know, got Death Wish 2, and like they used to just do that all the time. Like, you'd have a really good movie, or RoboCop, or going back now, what they're doing now, and going back and retelling those stories again, like, you know,
yeah, well,
Universal Soldier 4 is coming out soon, you know. Like,
I hope that at least in the telling, we'll get good stories. As I say, I like the creators. I think there's good stuff here. I think there's going to be good stories. I'm still going to watch. I'm hoping that I will still enjoy. But the more that this stuff sort of keeps leaning in this direction, the more I keep thinking, why? Why has it got to be like that?
Yeah, is Creed 2 trying to rescue Rocky 4 and 5?
I mean, it couldn't hurt. They kind of did that on their own.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, even you could even say the same thing about Clone Wars and Rebels, in that they were trying to rescue some. Because Rebels and Clone Wars came out before Episode 9, right? I thought Episode 9 was, everybody's going on about how it's a sort of retelling of the first 3 movies. You know. Yeah. I mean, why? You know. Yeah, you're right. I mean, why do they keep dragging this stuff out again? I mean, one of these
Dave Filoni, who's the sort of brains behind, a lot of this, including Clone Wars and Rebels, he did something that I didn't think was possible. He made me care about Anakin Skywalker.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
After some horrendous dialogue and some, of the poorest performances of Hayden Christensen's career, and obviously, I don't necessarily blame him entirely for it, although I think he can certainly wear some of it. That Clone Wars series, the Anakin in that show was awesome. He was an awesome character, and I actually cared. And when he fell at the end of that series, when he became Darth Vader, it was heartbreaking, because he really built a whole, and again, when you watched Clone Wars, you knew where it was going. You knew that it was obviously headed towards this place, but it still was sad, and sadder in a way by far than what we saw in Episode 3. Just because we had the stakes raised and we invested in this character and his relationship with Padme and his relationship with Ahsoka and his relationship with Rex and all these other, Obi-Wan and all these other characters through the show, they redeemed that character. And so maybe they can redeem Episode 9. Maybe they can. Maybe they can redeem this whole Emperor thing. I remain optimistic that they can prove me wrong, but I found myself, as I was watching both of these episodes, particularly Bad Batch this week, where it seemed like it was careening towards this storyline, I thought, I feel like it just isn't necessary. But
so
here we go.
By the same token, can we talk about the redemption arc of Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi? I mean, was that necessary?
Yeah. It was kind of only if we don't mention the fact that his Force Ghost somehow de-aged by like 25 years.
Well, a couple of times, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he got retconned twice.
Yeah, what's going to cleanse our palates, gentlemen? Let's talk about The Last of Us.
Okay, so
The Last of Us, Season 1, Episode 7, Left Behind.
So what I was going to say earlier on when I was talking about The Last of Us and the fact check was that this storyline that we see in this episode is the second game that came out of the first series. When they did the Last of Us
DLC
remastered. Yeah, this was the downloadable content that. So if you go online and you buy Last of Us now for $20, you'll get the first game plus this little mini game with Ellie and her friend, and it's a full game, like it's like several levels deep. And we know why.
But that's not all it is, though, and I'll talk about that in my Easter egg.
Yeah.
That's not the only thing that influenced this.
Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
Elevator pitch. Ellie reflects on her past while trying to decide what to do with a badly injured Joel.
Yeah, I didn't have anything exciting to say. Well, Joel's injured, we get to learn about Ellie's past as a Fedra kiddo, including how she was infected.
Yeah, it's the origin story of the bite for sure.
Yeah. The pew pew pew. Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, definitely.
My Easter egg. So you mentioned that this was based on the Left Behind DLC, which I have not played. So I'm hoping that you and I can put our perspective hats on here because you've played that, right?
Yeah. Me? Yeah. I don't know about Jaime.
Yeah. Jaime, have you played the DLC?
No, but I've seen playthroughs of it.
Okay. I have read a comic book written by Neil Druckmann, same writer, creator of the show and the game. It's called The Last of Us American Dreams. It came out in 2000, I want to say 13, right around when the game was out. And it is actually a prequel to the Left Behind story.
Okay.
So it's a 4-part comic series. You can get it off Comixology if you want to read it, or I always recommend going to your local comic book shop. It's a good little story. As I said, written by Neil Druckmann himself, drawn by Faith Erin Hicks, who's a really talented artist. And it is basically the story of how the day Ellie comes to the Fedra school and meets Riley for the first time, and then they sort of strike up this unlikely friendship that actually culminates with them going to the mall and seeing all these kinds of things for the first time. So it is sort of part of the Left Behind DLC and part of this comic book adaptation as well. So, and as far as I know, all of this is obviously in canon for the gaming world. It's just not necessarily exactly adapted perfectly, but I definitely saw, the scene where she's standing in front of the lingerie shop. That's in the comic book. The arcade is in the comic book. There's no carousel, but she does actually ride a real horse inside the mall. Ellie does. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of scenes that are sort of lifted from this source material as well.
The carousel's in the game. All that stuff. The arcade's in the game. But there's also times when the two of them are fighting against a number of infected and baddies in the game. Yeah.
So yeah, there's an interesting. The one thing that the comic does not get to that I know the DLC level does is it does not culminate in the same way with the bite and that happening. It really is just about the two of them and them just sort of getting to know each other. They have this sort of adventure one night. They encounter the Fireflies, and then in the end, they both end up back at the school. But they're both kind of changed by the experience, and then I think we're supposed to sort of pick up the Left Behind story after that. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting that they took these sort of two pieces of source material and sort of worked it into what I thought was a pretty entertaining episode where we get a little bit more about Riley. I mean, I don't think there was anything in there that really caught me off guard. Obviously, it was, it was a nice episode. So the actress who played Riley is Storm Reed from Euphoria. I don't know if either of you have watched Euphoria, but she's great in that as well. But I thought the two of them had a really good rapport and, chemistry, and were really playing well off each other. I thought it was a really sort of entertaining episode where it's kind of in that same moment from 2 episodes ago where Joel walks into Ellie in a little town where they're staying in Wyoming, and she's reading this child's teenager's diary, and she's like, is this the kind of stuff that people had to worry about back then? Like, what am I going to wear? And that's kind of what you get to in this episode, where they're like, they kind of just for one night get to look at, hey, this is a little time capsule. This is kind of like a little moment inside what life was before all this, where, people wore frivolous clothing and they played games for fun, and they had all these, they went to the mall and they did their shopping, and they had this whole completely different life. It was kind of this sort of, echoes of the past kind of thing. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, it was almost scene for scene. A lot of the DLC game, like even the playing with the masks in the store at the end there was before the big conflict. What I vaguely remember, because you asked in your question, your big question here is, did she stay until Riley turned? What I remember from the game, and I may be wrong, is that they decide that she's going to leave, and Riley has one bullet left in her gun, and so you hear one lone shot. Yeah, so I think that she kind of solves her own problem. It's funny coming back to the I think it was 2 episodes ago where when the younger brother gets infected and the two of them are sharing in the bedroom and they're both supposed to be sleeping and he won't sleep, right? And he reveals to her that he's been bit, and she naively thinks, "Oh, I can just rub my blood on you, and that'll fix you," right? So, because I mean, like in the scene where, spoilers for if you haven't watched the show yet, 3, 2, 1, go. The fact that they both get bitten in that scene, they both realize at that point in time they know enough about this stuff. I guess they've had their education through the Fedra school that you're dead once you've been bitten, kind of thing, right? But it's interesting sort of the dynamic, and this is also talked about in the game, in that the two of them are they've both theoretically been indoctrinated by Fedra. And Riley's sort of now discovered this other side of she's now, I gotta call her a Firefly for lack of a better term, but she's with them. She's with the Fireflies, and the two of them talking about this sort of politics of, well, we're both fighting for this. We're both fighting for what we believe is good, right? And that the one dynamic that's not in the game, I don't think, is the fact that Ellie has the potential to go and be an officer. That may be in the comic book you were talking about, but
it is,
because that's not in the game. They don't talk about that. But obviously, the paths for the two of them are different, which is again a reason for why Riley would go and join the Fireflies, or to find a reason or a cause. But then when the whole thing about the bombs. Obviously, the bombs are important to the gameplay because you need to be able to blow up the infected, and that may have been like how they reveal those things. But the creation of the pipe bombs kind of thing, kind of reveals to, at least to Ellie, that the mission of the Fireflies is it's to blow me up because we're on opposite teams, right? So yeah, kind of interesting, political wartime kind of. My enemy, kind of, my enemy, my friend, kind of story trope that you see in other stories, right?
Well, and we've seen the portrayal of Fedra, whether it's this sort of very in control authoritarian group in Boston, whether it's the ones who have fallen in Kansas City, whether it's the ones rounding up people in the hometown where what were the two characters, Bill and
was episode 3 guys?
Frank and Bill.
Bill,
yeah. Where we see Bill, hiding out in his house, and we know that when we see the bodies, we know that those people aren't being taken to a repurposing place. They're basically being taken out to the country and shot. We know that the Fedra people are in a lot of cases doing these horrible, horrible things. But then we hear, Captain Kwong in this episode saying, we are the only thing that's keeping the evil at bay. He sees them as this, cause for justice, cause for safety, this beacon of light in a dark place. It's funny how, of course, it all depends on your perspective, right? From a certain point of view. But it was really interesting to see that sort of juxtaposed, because we really have only ever had them portrayed as these militaristic, tyrannical people, and now we're sort of seeing it from the inside of, well, we're trying to train these kids up, we're trying to give them, jobs and safety and all this, we're trying to protect people, even though we know that obviously there's a lot of abuse going on, a lot of, tyranny, a lot of, sort of the negative side of authoritarianism. Well, not that there isn't a lot of negative sides, but the most negative features of authoritarianism, where, they are basically keeping the people down so they can, as Captain Kwong says, we get to, if you're an officer, you get to, live in relative comfort compared to, shoveling manure on the streets, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Some good quotes from this one. at the tunnel, if it's sealed, or the mall, right? If it's sealed off, then why isn't it sealed off? I'm on a magic horse with like a million lights. I don't know how it's supposed to get any better. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen when Ellie's standing outside the arcade. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
And then the very poignant one from Riley, it ends this way sooner or later for everyone, right? Some of us just get there faster than others. Again, heartbreaking line.
Yeah.
And music played a huge part in this episode in a way that we haven't. I mean, we got a little bit of that in the Bill and Frank episode with the Linda Ronstadt, but in this one, we start with Ellie running, very unenthusiastically running laps listening to Pearl Jam. And of course, you have to remember that they're sort of frozen at a point in time, right? Although it's Walkmans were, I guess that obviously in a pinch anything will do, but Walkmans were kind of passé by 2003, right?
Yeah.
But we get, Pearl Jam at the beginning, and then later on we get Aha, so Take On Me, classic song, sort of sets that up. When they're on the carousel, the very light little melody that's playing on the carousel is The Cure's Just Like Heaven. Pick that one up right away because that's one of my favorite songs. And then, of course, we hear the Etta James song when they're dancing. And, of course, that sets up, she's doing I Got You, Babe. And then, of course, they get got, right? So interesting needle drops on this one where they kind of have these musical interludes that kind of set some scenes up, I thought. And then, of course, we flash back and forth between the past where we're seeing Ellie reflecting on her experience with Riley, but we also flash back and forth with her and Joel saying, hey, get out of here. I don't want you here. Leave me, go back to Tommy, get yourself to safety. His sort of quote unquote dying thought is, save yourself, go get out of here. And, in the end, Ellie comes back downstairs and sort of says, shut the heck up, and, gets the needle in the possibly filthy needle and thread out of the drawer, and starts doing some stitching. I don't know if they had any booze with them or anything. Something could have disinfected that. Maybe run a lighter over the top of it for a second. But yeah, so it still sets the stage for an interesting next episode where Joel's going to be laid up for a little bit. How does Ellie sort of fare? She has to now do a lot of the things that Joel's been doing. She has to protect them. She has to feed them. She has to take care of the two of them while Joel gets better. It's interesting place to leave them off on too.
And I think I mentioned, I'm not sure if I mentioned it on Slack or on the show, but this is the first episode we've seen when anybody goes rifling through drawers to find resources.
Yeah, which of course, if you played the game, is like half the game.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to make a shiv. I need to make a Molotov cocktail.
Yeah, well, actually, no, you find them laying around, which is really nice, actually.
Handy.
Yeah, well, and when you see them that there's going to be some infected coming.
Something bad's coming?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. Just one thing I want to sort of talk about, all these dystopian shows that we see. By the way, in the Picard episode, there was a scene where you see the cityscape where Worf and Raffi are in, and it's like literally lifted right out of Blade Runner. Like every show, but it's interesting in all these dystopian games how all of these buildings, like whether it's Planet of the Apes or even these ones, I look at these buildings and I'm like, how could they be in such bad shape? How could they be like deteriorating, all that kind of stuff? And yet, I saw a couple of websites this weekend, and I've seen these sites before, like abandoned places. There's a lot of, older. I saw one which is it was somewhere in the States, and it was like a battery factory or something like that, which has been empty for a while, and it looks very like you could film these shows there, like the fact that these all the windows are gone and there's garbage and dirt and stuff on the walls, like if you think about how clean a shopping mall is, for example, but if it had been left abandoned for 20 years, it would end up looking like these sets, so it's kind of interesting because I look at these shows and games sometimes and think, like, is it really like that? But that is in fact what abandoned places do end up looking like, right? especially with like metal rusting and things like that too, right? So I've got a couple of links I'll put in the show notes for that. But on that note,
fair point.
Should we move off to our watch list?
Hell yeah.
Okay, you're up first, John. I think we talked about this before, though, right? But anyway.
I think you had this in your watch list a number of weeks back. But it's this weekend. The multi-part History of the World Part 2, the I never thought it would happen in my lifetime sort of sequel to the classic 1980s Mel Brooks movie is coming to Hulu this weekend. In the United States, is coming to Disney Plus via the Star
not Netflix
thing here. So yeah, I've seen a bunch of different promotional things. It seems like it's got a killer cast. It seems like everybody's just super excited to be working on a real, I mean, again, it's a farce. It's if you've ever seen History of the World Part 1, it's hilarious. It's ridiculous. There's a Spanish Inquisition dance scene. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of goofy stuff in here. There's a great cast. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's not going to be, high art, but yeah, it's going to be super fun. And I am very much looking forward to it. The other thing I didn't write down here, and I'll add it in, but they're also doing the and I'm sorry, Tim, they're doing the live Chris Rock special on Netflix on Saturday night. So this is a live Netflix show, which is kind of weird. So they're doing a pre-show with some comedians. They're doing the live Chris Rock show, and they're doing an after show as well with a bunch of other comedians. So if you're a big stand-up comedy fan, Saturday night's gonna be a pretty killer one on Netflix. So
cool. I'll be editing this podcast on Saturday night. So.
Well, we know you won't be watching Netflix.
It's true. Well, I might be. You never know. I might break down. So I was worried about this one. You guys were talking last week about Bill Watterson, and I saw a film, I think a documentary about, I think it's about, I want to say 5 years old now, called Dear Mr. Watterson, and it's all about his career. It's on Prime, thankfully. All about his career as an artist and about Calvin and Hobbes and all that kind of stuff. So if you're curious about the backstory behind this guy, or even about just the story about him, check out this documentary. It's made by a fan of his writing and stuff like that, but it does talk quite a bit about it. So that's on my watch list for this week. Where do you? And
for those who are interested, his new book, which we talked about last week, is it's 25% off already on pre-order on Amazon. So
nice.
If you want to book your copy, I've already put my money down waiting for that one. It's coming in October.
Nice. Over to you, Jaime.
Yeah, mine is a little unorthodox. So I think I had picked Koala Man from Hulu that ended up being actually surprisingly good. I think it started out slow the first episode or two, but it actually has an overarching story arc that wasn't immediately apparent to me, and works out pretty nice if you like the kind of Rick and Morty solar opposites kind of feel. It feels very Australian, and I do recommend that. But my actual pick is Fresh Blood: Koala Man, which was apparently the original pilot made for Koala Man. So it's kind of close to the actual first episode that premiered on Hulu, but there's some pretty nice differences. So it feels like an alternate reality version of that episode. So it's free here on archive.org. Pretty breezy, like 20 minutes, I think. Worth checking out if you like Koala Man.
I'm just going to do a quick search to see if it's on Disney Plus here.
Yeah, no, I've been watching it. I think it's on Disney Plus. I'm 3 episodes in.
Yeah. Well, I know Koala Man's. I just know if the...
this particular show, right? All right, well, I guess that's it for another week. So if people want to get in touch with you, Jonathan, where would they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram as @JPKNews, or on YouTube at youtube.com/@JPK.
Cool. And Jaime, if people want to get in touch with you?
I'm on Twitter as @DevWithAHair.
Cool. And as usual, my name is Timitra, Timmitra, on the Twitter machine and on the Mastodon machine and the YouTube. And that's pretty much it. So till next time, we'll see you in the future. Bye.
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 You've been listening to the Spotcast podcast. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spotcast website at spotcast.com. You can get in touch with us on the website or follow us on Twitter at Spotcast. If you have feedback or questions, send us a tweet with the hashtag AskSpotcast. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spotcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spotcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
It during our Last of Us conversation, but did you see that once again, and we didn't really talk about it in our recap either, but so Riley and Ellie share a kiss, right?
Yes, right, yes.
In this episode.
Yes.
And there is kind of a whole undertone to the whole episode. There is that sort of vibe that Ellie's kind of infatuated, but you're not really clear if it's romantic or if it's just admiration. But then it culminates with the two of them sharing a kiss, which is very sweet. But for the second time this season and in this series, the homophobes came out in force.
Oh, did they really?
One.
Wow. It's
so
in the game.
Irrespective of that, they apparently did a lot of review bombing when they did the episode with Bill and Frank. And were really very negative and basically review bombed it mercilessly so that it ended up with, like, I think the review total on some of the things is like 20% as an audience score, which is ridiculous because it was an incredible episode of television. This one, again, had a queer moment, and apparently that's too much for some people, and they did the exact same thing. So to all those people, get over yourselves. Love is love, and stop. Just stop. And if you're listening to this and you're one of those people, don't listen to us.
Yeah, exactly. Please go away. Well, so much for our bombless review on this show.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Come on, bomb us.
Yeah,
come get us.
Help us be viral. Come on.
We dare you.
Yeah. Go ahead. Joseph, tell us how you feel.
Yeah. Oh, it just makes me sick to my stomach. It's wildly upsetting, but
people suck. We've talked about it before.
What? Love will overcome. Yeah, I can't say that I understand the rationale behind any of it. It was interesting. I never really thought about it. I was listening to another podcast that they referenced the Last of Us recently, and they were talking about how the thing that you also have to remember is that the world is basically frozen in 2003, right? Mm-hmm. Like 2003 was sort of the last point for laws and culture and pop culture and all these things. That's why, for these kids, an arcade is still a quasi-relevant thing, although I could argue again that by the early 2000s it was not necessarily. But that definitely comes back around when you're talking about things like gay rights, right? Like, we've come a long way in 20 years. We still have a long way to go, but, in this time, that moment when Frank, knows that Bill is gay and they share that kiss and then they end up in bed together. Like, Bill probably was closeted his whole life. He probably, reconciled himself to the fact that he was queer and never had a chance to express himself. And the idea at the end of the episode where they've lived these 20 years together and they've shared this life together and they decide, like what Frank says is, let's get married. So the two of them do that. I haven't checked the laws, but like, they're living somewhere in probably New England. Mm-hmm. It probably wasn't even legal for them to get married at that point. Mm. So, it is definitely a moment to sort of reflect back on that, like in these 20 years that we have lived that they didn't get to live, where society carried on, we've moved the needle a little bit in some very positive ways that, you kind of have to put that context hat on for some of these moments.
Yeah.
Only 2 more episodes of Last of Us. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Feels like it's just kind of getting steam, and now it's gonna be over.
Well, yeah. I don't want to spoil it for you, but you guys don't know the ending, right? Or Jaime does.
No. Jaime does. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I started playing the game, and I have not been able to have a lot of focus time. It's been a busy stretch for me, so I made it very, very not far. I'll let you know how far I've made it. Tess is still alive, so it's still a ways to go.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I finished Red Dead Redemption. I finished the whole story part of it. Now I'm just running around like whatever. And it's funny, I still can't get to that part of the world that I thought I could get to, but which is apparently part of the first game. But yeah, I haven't gone down there to see if they'll unceremoniously kill me. But but there's some like legendary animals that I just got to hunt a few of them down, and help out some people, and free some prisoners and stuff like that. Shoot some bad guys.
As you do.
Yeah, shoot bad guys. And whenever anybody reports me for murdering a bad guy, I run away.
As you do.
Yeah. Otherwise, you end up dead. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, mind you, like I said, I did figure out that the trick is to hide behind rocks and trees. That seems to be a way to defend yourself against getting killed. Yeah. But it's funny, like you get this beaver, like this is legendary beaver. You get the legendary beaver, and you can make the legendary beaver trinket out of it, right? But if you die while you've got the legendary beaver pelt, right? Then when you're resurrected, it says you've lost your legendary thing, but you can still go and make the special trinket thing. So what's the point of getting the And whenever you take it back to your camp and you take it to the butcher and you give him the fur, it turns around and it shows you in a corner of the camp putting it down. So like, at one point I get the legendary wolf and the legendary elk and the legendary something or other, and every time you put it down, you end up, the cutscene is like you putting it down over in the back corner. So I'm kind of kept wondering, why don't I just take it back over there and put it there, drop it there, like very strange. Yeah, I guess they only have so many cycles to write these little stories into the game, right?
So are you going to take a break, or are you diving right into Last of Us Part 2?
I have some other things to do, which I've been putting off. But I haven't started Last of Us 2 yet. So, but I will have to at some point. I'll talk to you guys.
As a reminder, I will be out next week, but I will return the 16th.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens in Japan when you're doing your thing. If you can, it's funny because when I was, where was I? I think I was in the States. I went to Chicago and I wasn't able to get any of the shows. I tried to do the Tunnel Bear thing to get the VPN going, and it just wouldn't work. There's something I couldn't do in when I was traveling in the States, related to like a Netflix or something. I can't remember which service it was, but it just was like, nope, can't do that. I think it was Disney maybe. Because Apple will work no matter where you are. Which is odd.
Well, feel free to Slack at us, Jaime. We'll definitely
pictures, unless it didn't. Otherwise, it didn't happen. We want to see pictures of you being the tallest guy in the room. That's what we want to see.
Hey, the hair is going to be the thing that puts them over the top.
It's true. True. All right. And enjoy what conference is it you're going to?
It is DevRelCon Yokohama.
Oh, you went to that one before, right?
Yeah, it's still in the Tokyo area. Yokohama, I don't know if it would be considered a suburb over there, but from an American perspective, it's a suburb because it's like 45 minutes by train from Tokyo.
Right. Cool.
It's in the same ballpark,
Nice. Cool. Talk to you guys later.
All right, gents, have a good time, Jaime. Look forward to
can you get back on all that stuff and
thank you.
Whatever.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
Sayonara.
Sayonara.
Talk to you later.
See you guys.
Bye.